When you look at what's getting ready to take place in this Belichick-Brady meeting for the first time, what are you expecting? Like, what will be the greeting, the pleasantries, or will there be any at all?
Oh, this takes me back to 2003 when Bill Parcells was coming back here, and you had the whole Parcells-Belichick thing. Parcells was the Cowboys coach, and we were all watching the pregame. You know, would Belichick go to Parcells at midfield before the game? And Belichick kept his distance, and Parcells was sort of milling at midfield, almost like wondering if it was going to happen himself, it seemed like. And then they obviously had the handshake at the end of the game. And I go back to that, Keyshawn, because I think that's what it'll probably be like on Sunday night. That my guess would be Tom is going to be so locked in that he's going to sort of leave all that stuff for after the game. And certainly I would think for Bill Belichick, that's not going to be on his mind before the game.
Mike, what do you think the overall reaction of the fans will be? Like, will there be a standing ovation? Do you think it'll be anger? What's your sentiment?
I think we're going to see Brady jerseys, Patriot Brady jerseys in the stands. I think we're going to hear chants, Jay, of Brady, 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 which in this stadium behind me, we heard that over 20 years. We're going to hear cheers. I think there's going to be a video of some sorts in which the team honors him and recognizes everything he did here. And then I think when the game starts, that's when it's going to get interesting. Can the Patriots keep it competitive? And if they do, I think it turns to the Patriots side. If they don't, that's when I think there's a chance this stadium behind me could turn into a Brady appreciation stadium where people start cheering for Tom and everything that he accomplished. And if it happens during the game, to me, that's different than before the game. I think everything leading up before the game is going to be pro-Brady.
Mike, I'm going to give you the opportunity to be the first individual in all of the national media to expand on a name that is not frequently used in the last week or so, and that would be Mac Jones. No one's using Mac Jones. He's like all of a sudden disappeared from the Patriot roster because of Bill Belichick and Tom Brady. How is this going to impact Mac Jones looking across the field from a guy and a legend that he's essentially replacing?
Key, you know, I looked at this the other day, and can you believe that Mac Jones was 1 when Tom Brady was drafted here in New England? 1. So he wasn't even he can't remember that time. He was at Alabama when Tom left the Patriots here. He said he didn't really follow that. So to me, like, he's sort of like separated from this whole thing, and he's got so much going on right now just to run this offense and everything they've put on his plate that he's sort of skating his lane. And he seems to do a pretty good job from what I've seen, Key, in terms of compartmentalizing. Like, this is what I have to do. I'm going to let everything else sort of, put that in its own place. The one thing that's interesting with Mac that we've all noticed, he's very hard on himself. And I think that's what he's really working on more than any piece with Brady, who he said he's never met personally before, is just to try to give himself a break at times and not be so hard on himself.
This week, obviously, Seth Wickersham's book came out and everything swirling around that. How is the organization and the team around? What are you hearing? How are they handling that?
Well, I thought yesterday was interesting, Keyshawn. You know, when Bill Belichick, that door swung open at 11:45 in the morning for his news conference, which was the first time we would talk to him in person with all this stuff swirling, there was a little bit of tension in the air in that room, like the feeling being like, what is this? How is he going to approach this? And he gets up to that podium, he smiles, and he says, "What's going on? Got any stories?" And everyone just starts laughing. And I think that, to me, is reflective of how they are approaching this. They're not avoiding it. They're coming out with humor, which who would have expected that from Bill Belichick? And honestly, answering the questions. We were a little bit surprised, Keyshawn, that he answered the question about the book, that he answered a lot of questions about Tom and how effusive he was in his praise, because I think if you took sort of a poll of all the reporters in the room, they would have told you, he might mention Tom, but he's going to say this game's about the Buccaneers and the whole team more than it's about Tom. So he surprised us a little bit yesterday, Keyshawn, and I think, to me, the team sort of takes a tone from that heading into this game.
Our man on the scene, Mike Reiss. Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it. Live from Gillette. Appreciate it, Mike.
All right, Mike.
You know, guys, I'm trying to think in my own memory, like when I was a little kid, 8 years old, something like that, Reggie Jackson, who'd won 2 World Series, big, huge star in the late 70s, a huge star, left New York. They let him walk out the door. He went to the Angels, having a good year. He comes back to Yankee Stadium, hits a home run off Ron Guidry. I think the Yankees won that game, but Reggie hit the home run on his game back. I can't think of anything that is like this, because there's never been a guy like Tom Brady or a coach like Bill Belichick who had that much success in really any sport that was together that long. I'm trying to think of a comparison to it. I'm drawing blanks.
It would be like if, when I got drafted by the Bulls, if Phil Jackson were still coaching the Bulls and Michael Jordan had came back with the Washington Wizards, which he did, but Bill Cartwright was our coach. But just to tell you, Max, about that feeling, he got a 15-minute standing ovation for his last game at the United Center. 15 minutes. Like, we had to prolong the tip of the game. And, Key, I lie to you not, during the game, when this dude would make certain shots, like a fadeaway over his left shoulder and those Michael Jordan-like spots on the court, you would have dudes on our team that be like, yo, that was nice, Mike. In the game. So, like, there's that, if you're thinking about Mac Jones, being 1 year old when obviously – Tom Brady got drafted, but growing up watching Tom Brady, seeing his mannerisms, paying attention to all that, the anxiety that he's going to have, being on the field that he knows Tom Brady has made into a legendary stadium, like, that's a lot of weight to carry for a young player.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.